y'all, it's Kim. So this is the QBARC Counterintelligence Interrogation, basically manual. It's like 60 something pages. This section is talking about the interrogatee. And the reason I stumbled on this is because of the Senate torture report. And CIA also talked about QBARC. Plus, John Kiriakou was a former CIA. I'll just say he was involved in that. I don't know what his title was before he left. But anyway, he mentioned this, I think, counterintelligence thing in one of the mini podcasts that I watched with him, and it's pretty fascinating. But anyway, this is about 15 pages in this section. Some of it is redacted, taken out, whatever. It's like, okay, cool, but that's sure this stuff is not really still happening, right? But anyway, so it says the interrogatee, types of sources, intelligence categories. From the viewpoint of the intelligence service, the categories of persons who most frequently provide useful information in response to questioning are travelers, repatriates, defectors, escapees, and refugees. Transferred sources, agents, including provocateurs, double agents and penetration agents, and swindlers and fabricators. Travelers are usually interviewed, debriefed, or queried through eliciting techniques. If they are interrogated, the reason is that they are known or believed to fall into one of the following categories: repatriates, or sometimes interrogated, although other techniques are used most often. The proprietary interests of the host government will frequently dictate interrogation by a liaison service rather than by QBARC. If QBARC interrogates, the following preliminary steps are taken: a records check, including local and headquarters traces, testing of bona fides. I've heard people say bona fides, but I think it's bona fides when I listen to Google pronounce it. Okay, and determination of repatriate's kind and level of access while outside his country. Preliminary assessment of motivation, including political orientation, reliability, and capability as observer and reporter. Determination of an intelligence or communist, something's been blacked out here, but anyway, relationships, whether with the service or party of the repatriate's own country, country of detention, or another. Full particulars are needed. Defectors, escapees, and refugees are normally interrogated at sufficient length to permit at least a preliminary testing of bona fides. The experience of the post-war years has demonstrated that Soviet defectors almost never defect solely or primarily because of an inducement by Western service, usually leave the USSR for personal rather than ideological reasons, and are often RIS agents. All analyses of the defector refugee flow have shown that the orbit services are well aware of the advantages offered by this channel as a means of planting their agents in target countries. Transferred sources referred to QBARC by another service for interrogation are usually sufficiently well known to the transferring service so that a file has been opened. Whenever possible, QBARC should secure a copy of the file or its full informational equivalent before accepting custody. Agents are more frequently debriefed than interrogated. As an analytical tool, if it is then established or strongly suspected that the agent belongs to one of the following categories, further investigation and eventually interrogation usually follow. Provocateur. Many provocation agents are walk-ins posing as escapees, refugees, or defectors in order to penetrate immigrant groups. OD yoke intelligence or other targets assigned by hostile services, although denunciations by genuine refugees and other evidence of information obtained from documents local officials, and like sources may result in exposure. The detection of provocation frequently depends upon skilled interrogation. A later section of this manual deals with the preliminary testing of bona fides, but the result of preliminary testing are often inconclusive, and detailed interrogation is frequently essential to confession and full revelation. Therefore, the provocateur may be questioned for operational and positive intelligence as well as counterintelligence, provided that proper cognizance is taken of his status during the questioning and later when reports are prepared. A double agent, the interrogation of DAs frequently follows a determination or strong suspicion that the double is given the edge to the adversary service, as is also true for the interrogation of provocateurs. Thorough preliminary investigation will pay handsome dividends when questioning gets underway. In fact, it is a basic principle of interrogation that the questioner should have at his disposal before querying starts as much pertinent information as can be gathered without the knowledge of the prospective interrogatee. Something's been taken out of there. So swindlers and fabricators are usually interrogated for prophylactic reasons, not for counterintelligence information. The purpose is the prevention or nullification of damage to QBARC to other ODOC services. Swindlers and fabricators have a little of CI significance to communicate, but are notoriously skillful time wasters. Interrogation of them is usually inconclusive and, if prolonged, unrewarding. The professional peddler with several IS in contacts may prove an exception, but he will usually give the edge to a host security service because otherwise he cannot function with impunity. B, types of sources, personality categories. The number of systems devised for categorizing human beings is large, and most of them are dubious validity. Various categorical schemes are outlined in treatises on interrogation. The two typologies most frequently advocated are psychologic, emotional, and geographical cultural. Those who urge the former argue that the basic emotional psychological patterns do not vary significantly with time, place, or culture. The latter school maintains the existence of a national character and subnational categories. And interrogation guides based on this principle recommend approaches tailored to geographical cultures. It is plainly true that the interrogation source cannot be understood in a vacuum, isolated from social context. It is equally true that some of the most glaring blunders in interrogation and other operational processes have resulted from ignoring the source's background. Moreover, emotional, psychological schematization sometimes present atypical extremes rather than the kinds of people commonly encountered by interrogators. Such typologies also cause disagreement even among professional psychiatrists and psychologists. Interrogators who adopt them and who note in an interrogatee one or two of the characteristics of type A may mistakenly assign the source to category A and assume the remaining traits. On the other hand, there are valid objections to the adoption of cultural geographical categories for interrogation purposes. However valid they may be as Q cage concepts, the pitfalls of ignorance of the distinctive culture of the sources have, well, they cut something off here. Okay, the ideal solution would be to avoid all categorizing. Basically, all schemes for labeling people are wrong per se. Applied arbitrarily, they always produce distortions. Every interrogator knows that a real understanding of the individual is worth far more than a thorough knowledge of this or that pigeonhole to which he can be consigned or he has been consigned. And for interrogation purposes, the ways in which he differs from the abstract type may be more significant than the ways in which he conforms. But QBARC does not dispose of the time or personnel to probe the depths of each source's individuality. In the opening phases of interrogation or in the quick interrogation, we are compelled to make some use of the shorthand of categorizing despite distortions. Like other interrogation aids, a scheme of categories is usually only useful only if recognized for what it is, a set of labels that facilitate communication but are not the same as the person thus labeled. If an interrogatee lies persistently, an interrogator may report and dismiss him as a pathological liar, yet such persons may possess counterintelligence or other information quite equal in value to that held by other sources, and the interrogator likeliest to get at it is the man who is not content with labeling but is interested in why the subject lies as in what he lies about. With all of these reservations, then, and with the further observation that those who find these psychological, emotional categories pragmatically valuable should use them, and those who do not should let them alone. The following 9 types are described. The categories are based upon the fact that a person's past is always reflected, however dimly, in his present ethics and behavior. Old dogs can learn new tricks, but not new ways of learning them. People do change, but what appears to be new behavior or new psychological pattern is usually just a variant on the old theme. Okay, I'm going to stop it here and then finish up the rest of this. That way, all that's together. So, anyway, I'll talk to you in a minute. Bye.